What is going on, guys? Welcome back. In this video today we're going to learn how to add a dark mode to our Tkinter GUI applications. So let us get right into it. Alright, so as a short motivational preview here to see what we're going to end up with, this is what we're going to build today, a simple login application. You can replace this with an email client, a notepad, whatever you like. And we're going to have the ability to toggle dark mode in this application. This also works for the message boxes. So now we have a light message box. Now we have a dark message box. This is what we're going to build today. Alright, so we're going to learn how to implement a dark mode feature for our Tkinter GUI applications in this video today. And for this, we're only going to use the core Python package tkinter. So we're not going to rely on any external fancy packages. And the only import that we actually need is import tkinter as tk. The rest is going to be our code. Now, in order to add a dark mode to an application, of course, we first need an application. So as an example project in this video today, we're going to build a login application. However, if you want to build something else, feel free to do that. You can build a mail client, an FTP client, a notepad, a chat application. It doesn't matter because what we're going to do in this video is applicable to all sorts of GUI applications. The principles are the same. So we're going to start here by creating a class login app, and this class will have a constructor, so an init method. This init method is going to take a root parameter, which is going to be our tk instance. We're going to set this to self.root, so self.root is equal to root. And we're going to start right away with a boolean, which is called isDarkMode, and it's going to start with the default value false, so our application by default will be in light mode. Now, when we change the style of a Tkinter application, we need to change the style of all the individual components. We have buttons, entries, labels, message boxes, everything needs to change. You cannot just say, get the whole application and turn it to dark mode. You need to implement that feature, so you need to take care of all the individual components. So it makes sense to first code out the components and then to code out the colors for the components, which is what we're going to do now. We're going to start by saying self.label_username. So again, our application, you saw it in the preview already, will have username, password, labels for username, password, a login button, and a toggle dark mode button, and also a message box. So we're going to say here self.label username is going to be equal to tklabel. Tklabel will be part of the root tk instance, and the text of this label will be equal to, let me just move my, sorry for the noise. Let me just move my microphone a little bit. We're going to say the text of this label is username, and then self.label username will be placed in a grid layout. So we're going to say grid row equals 0, column equals 0 as well. And we're going to have some padding. So padding X is going to be 10, padding Y is going to be 10, and it's going to be sticky. It's going to stick to the west, so tk.w. That is just now our label. I'm going to copy that, I'm going to paste it, and we're going to have a label for the password as well. So label password, label password. The text is going to obviously be password, and this is now going to be placed in row 1. So row 1, column 0, padding 10, and stick to west again. Now in between, we're also going to have a entry for the username. So entry username is going to be tk entry. It's going to be part of root, and we don't have a text because that's just an entry. The label is already telling us that this entry is for the username, and we're going to place this entry username in the grid layout as well. Row is going to be 0, column is going to be 1, so it's going to be to the right of the label, and we're also going to have a padding X 10, padding X equals 10, and padding Y equals 10 as well. We're going to copy this as well. I'm going to paste it down below, and we're going to change this to entry password. Entry password. And the important thing now here is that we need to add the parameter show equals star or asterisk. just so we don't see the content of the password field. And then we need two more buttons. So we need to have a self.login button, which is going to be a TK button, and it's going to be part of root. The text of that button will obviously be login, and the command of that button will be a function that we don't have yet, self.login. So I'm going to define it down here. I'm going to leave it empty for now. Self.login or def login self, and then we're going to pass for now. But this button is going to trigger this function. Then we're going to say self.login button grid layout, and it's going to be placed in row equals 2, in column equals 0, and the column span of this button will be 2, so it's going to take 2 columns. It's going to be a little bit wider, and we're also going to have a padding y equal to 10. And then finally, we're going to have a toggle dark mode button. So toggle button is what I'm going to call it here. It's going to have the text toggle dark mode, and the command is going to be toggle theme. So let me just move this so you can see the code. We're going to have a function toggle theme. And for now, we're also going to leave it empty. And then basically, let me just finish this. Toggle button grid row is going to be 3, column 0, column span 2, padding 10. So these are the UI elements. Now, whatever application you're building, you're going to have different UI elements. You're going to have labels, entries, buttons, text areas, something else. You might have different components that are not part of this application here. The important thing is when you want to change the style of the application or the mode of the application to dark mode, you need to do this for all the individual components, which means that you need to define the styling in light mode and dark mode, or if you just have different themes in general, for every single component. And because of that, we're going to create now here 2 dictionaries, which are going to be our modes. So self light mode, which is going to be the default, is going to be a dictionary that contains the following values. First, BG for background is going to be white. Then foreground, so FG, is going to be black. Then we have entry BG, so the background for our entry, or for our entries, you don't need to have a specific color for the individual entries, but for one type of widget, you want to have one color here. We're going to have a light gray, which is going to be hashtag EEE. We're also going to have entry foreground. So what is the text color inside of the entry? We're going to have black here again. And then we're going to have also button underscore background. So BTN, BG, you can call this whatever you want, by the way. And we're going to say that this is a little bit darker. So hashtag DDD. So still a light gray, but darker than the entry. And we're going to say button foreground is going to be black. So this is our light mode. I can now copy this and I can define the same thing for the dark mode. And again, if you have multiple modes, if you want to have not only light and dark, but maybe some color schemes, you can also do that, of course, with more modes. But I'm going to just have a dark mode here now. And in the dark mode, we're going to say that the background is going to be a very dark gray, so 333. The foreground is going to be white. The entry background is going to be a little bit lighter than the background, so 555. Color is still going to be white. Text color is going to be white. The button background is going to be 444, so right in between the background and the entry color, and the text is going to be white. So now we have these 2 modes defined, and we need to apply them to the individual widgets. And for this, we're going to define a function called apply theme. So we're going to say def apply theme, which is going to take self as an argument and the theme as the argument, so the dictionary. And we're going to say here now self.root config, and in the config of the element itself, of the root element itself, of the TK instance itself, we're going to set the background equal to the theme dictionary, and from the theme dictionary, the background field. So this would be white in the light mode and this dark gray in the dark mode. So this is just for the background of the application in general. Now, in the application, we have widgets. So we can say for widget in self.root, and we can now iterate over the widgets. We can say winfo underscore children to iterate over the widgets, and then we can say the widget type is whatever the widget is dot winfo underscore class. So we see, okay, for every widget that we have in the application, what kind of widget is it? This makes more sense than going through all the buttons manually. If I have 500 buttons, now this is extreme, but if I have 500 buttons, I don't want to list manually all the buttons. I just want to say iterate over all the widgets. If the widget is a button, do this. If the widget is an entry, do this. So we're going to say here, if widget type equals, and we're going to start with a label. If the widget is a label, what we want to do is we want to say widget config, and we want to change from the label, the background to theme, and then background, actually. So for the label, we're going to use the same thing as for the root itself, and foreground is going to be theme foreground. So that's for the label. Elif widget type equals, and we're going to have entry, and for entry, we're going to say widget config. Now the background here is going to be equal to the theme and then to the entry background, and the foreground is going to be equal to theme entry foreground. So every entry will get the styling, whatever the styling is, and then we can say elif widget type equals button. Then we're going to say widget.config background equals theme button background, foreground equals theme button foreground. All right, so we have the configs here. Now for the entry, we also want to actually have insert background. So insert background is going to be equal to the theme of the foreground in general. So the foreground color in general. So the idea here is quite simple. We have many different components, and all we have to do is we have to know what kind of components we have. We can have 100 entries, 500 buttons, 6,000 labels if you want to. You don't have to go through the individual components. You just have to go through all the widgets, and then you have the branches for the individual types. And depending on the types of widgets, you just apply different settings, and the settings are defined in the modes, in this case, light and dark mode, but you can have 100 themes as well. So that is the apply theme function. Now this apply theme function, we want to call it right away in the beginning, self.apply theme, because we want to start in light mode, and our light mode is different from the default Tkinter styling. So we're going to say here self.light mode. This is by default not the same as this. So the Tkinter styling is slightly different than this. So we call our light mode here, and then we need to also define the toggle theme function. Maybe let's put it up here. The toggle theme function is very simple. All we have to do is we have to see what's the current theme and then to change it to the other one. So we're going to say if self.isDark mode, self.apply theme, and then self.light mode. Else, if self is not dark mode, so if the dark mode is not currently active, we're going to apply self.dark mode. And then we're going to say self.isDark mode is going to be not self.isDark mode. So it's going to basically negate the current isDark mode variable. So if it's true, it's false. If it's false, it's true. And depending on the value, we apply the other theme. And then finally, all we need to do is we need to also implement the login. Now, the login itself is easy, but one tricky thing about the login is the message box. Now in Tkinter, we have message boxes by default, but we cannot easily style them. We cannot just say, okay, give me the default message box and apply my styling. In order to have a dark mode message box, we need to define our own message box class. But let's first of all implement the login logic in general. We're going to keep it extremely simple here. We're not going to have a database. We're not going to have actual login information. We're just going to say username is self.entry username.get. So this is going to be the content. For the password, we're going to do the same thing with the entry password. And then we're going to just compare them to fixed values. This is just so we have a dummy login system. You can also, of course, connect this to a database if you want to. We're going to keep it simple. We're going to say if username is equal to user and password is equal to pass. If that is the case, we're just going to display a message box. For now, I'm going to pass. And otherwise, we're also going to display a message box, but a different one. And that is basically our login logic. Now, the message box, as I said, needs to be defined in its own class because we need to customize the styling. So what we're going to do is we're going to say class custom message box. And this now is going to inherit, let me just zoom in a little bit. This is going to inherit from TK top level. So top level to create our own TK component here. And we're going to say def __ init __. And we're going to have here the following information: parent, title, message, theme. Those are the arguments that we pass here to the init function. And what we're going to do is we're going to call the super function, so the super constructor of the top level class. So we're going to say super init, and then we're going to pass here the parent. And the rest is going to be our own customization. So self.theme is going to be equal to theme. And then we're going to say self.title of the message box is going to be the title. Self.geometry of the message box is going to be just 300 times 100 pixels. We're going to say self.config is equal to, or actually not equal to, self.config, and the background is equal to self.whatever the theme is that we pass to it, background. So we continue with the styling that we did up here. We do also the same thing here in the constructor already of the custom message box that we define. So self.label is going to be the message, TK label. It's going to be part of self, and it's going to have the text message. And this message is whatever we want to say, like successful login or login information was invalid, whatever. And we're going to say here now, background of this label is going to be self.theme background, and the color of this text, so the color of the label, the foreground is going to be self.theme and then foreground. And then we're going to say self.label pack. So for this, we're going to use a pack layout, not a grid layout. We're going to say padding y equals 20, padding x equals 20. And then we're going to say self.OK button, just so we can close the message box. This is going to be a tk.button. It's going to be part of self. The text of this button is going to be OK. And then we're going to say that the background of this button is going to be self.theme button background. The foreground of the button is going to be self.theme and button foreground, and the command of this button, let me just scroll up a little bit again, or scroll down actually. The command of this button is going to be self.destroy, so it will destroy the message box, it will close it to keep it less dramatic. Self OK button pack, and then padding y is going to be 10. And that is basically our message box. So this message box here, this class, is our customized message box that we can pass a theme to. And this theme will influence then the color of the label, of the message, of the background itself, and of the button. So what we're going to do now is we're going to say if the username and the password are correct, we're going to say custom message box self.root is going to be the parent. Login is going to be the title, and then the message is going to be successfully logged in. And we're going to pass here for the theme self.dark mode if self.dark mode is dark mode, and then else we're going to pass self.light mode. And we're going to copy this. If the credentials are invalid, we're going to keep everything the same other than the message. Login failed. There you go. So the only thing that we need to do now is we need to actually create a TK instance and create an instance of our class. So we're going to say root equals tk. Root.title is going to be login app, and then the app is going to be the login app instance passing the root here, and then root.mainLoop. That is it. I can run this now, and we have a problem. Top level is lowercase actually. So top level with a lowercase l, and the rest should actually be fine. We have our, no, we don't have our password box. Why is that? Because we placed it, I think, in the wrong row. Could that be the case? Yeah, it should be in row 1. There you go. So we have our username, password, login here. I can type some stuff. We get login failed here, and I can then toggle dark mode. Everything's dark now. Also the message box. So let's recap real quick what we did here. We have our UI element, and in your application, this might be different. You might be building a different GUI application, but you have your different components. You have different widget types. You need to keep track of those. We have buttons, entries, labels. Maybe you also have something else in your application. And then we have our apply theme function, which applies a dictionary, one of the 2 dictionaries up here, with the values for the individual components. Depending on the widget type, we iterate over the children, or over the widgets of the root window. We look at the type of the widget, and depending on the widget type, we apply a different styling, which is defined by our dictionary. And of course, we can do that here with different color schemes, not just with light and dark mode. So yeah, this is how you implement a dark mode feature into your Tkinter GUI applications. So that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it and hope you learned something. If so, let me know by hitting the like button and leaving a comment in the comment section down below. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell to not miss a single future video for free. Other than that, thank you much for watching. See you in the next video, and bye.